the lounge with Travify Academy, where we get to hear from travel industry voices and experts to learn more about their story and what they see on the horizon for travel professionals. I'm Stephanie Grice, and I'm so excited to chat with my colleagues of Travify, with the Travify founding team members, David Chait and Scott Rutz. And which is interesting about this is usually you both are interviewing others with me, but this time the tables have turned. So thank you both for joining me. I'm very excited about this.
It's a pleasure to be here, Steezy. And if for those listening, if you didn't know, Stephanie's nickname is Steezy.
Oh, yes. Yep. That is true. You might hear that name dropped around in this conversation.
It's almost weird for us when we like formally in settings call her Stephanie. It's
so formal.
Hello, Stephanie.
It feels like a title.
Yeah, and colleague Stephanie Grice. Nope, just Steezy. That's how we roll around here. But I really wanted to bring you both on because the Travify that everyone knows today is very much different than the Travify that first started in 2012. So I wanted to share our story with our listeners. So during this podcast interview, I will let the founding team members, David and Scott, share how Travify even came to be and how it pivoted into what it is today, which is an all-in-one business tool for travel advisors. So buckle up, everybody, because you might be a little mind blown to hear where Travify came from. So this is really exciting. So first and foremost, David, tell us how the idea of Travify was born.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those kind of, like you said, funny things that where you end up is so different from where and why you got started and all of that. And so Travify, as both a business, but also the interest came, from me at a time in my life. I was in business school. I had just come out of the Obama administration at the U.S. Small Business Administration, where I had done a lot of work with young, growing companies, particularly technology companies, and was very interested in exploring that world, and was ideating constantly with different friends and things and exploring. And at that time, one of the ideas that we were exploring had to do with travel, and nothing to do with what we do right now, but it came from kind of pain points in our own lives then, which had to do with kind of group travel. That point I was going on a lot of trips with my classmates, a lot of bachelor and bachelorette parties. In the early days, there was actually a specific friend's bachelor party I used to bring up all the time that was just a nightmare, and left with a lot of money. No one paid me back and all of that. And so set out to solve those issues with the original iteration of Travify, which was a group travel planner that helped solve the issues of group coordination. So collaboration on details, managing shared expenses, and building those itineraries. So that was the initial Travify. But I think the other really interesting thing about stuff was the journey in terms of the team and how we all came together, which on the one hand, feels somewhat random when you actually think about it and put it together, but it goes to show how just the right people click and grab a hold and things like that. And so when first getting started, two sorts of things. Number one, of some of the friends as I was working and ideating thing, one friend that, was really instrumental in terms of we were working together and came up with the idea and started pushing things, is one of my best friends from college. We then were at McKinsey together. We then were in the Obama administration together. A great guy by the name of Wayne Ting, who's currently CEO of Lime Scooters right now. And so great friends, we had been working together. Two sorts of things. Number one, from my time in the administration where I was working across different ecosystems in the States and thing, one of my takeaways was you have amazing talent, not just, in my point of view, I was in New York City, I'd been in DC. That was kind of the worldview I had was, hey, there's life outside the Northeast corridor. You actually have great talent and great opportunities. And Wayne was from Lincoln, Nebraska. And so as we were looking for right partners and chatting with people, Wayne made the introduction to Chris Davis, who is our co-founder and CTO of Travify. And Chris and I hit it off instantly. The right people, it's it. And we were off to the races. Wayne at that time actually got a great job at the White House, and so departed in our infancy ideation stage. And Chris and I were getting started going, and as happens, you pull in the best people, the people that are there for the thing, and it was Chris who were the right people. You, me, and who else should we be jumping in? And along came Scott, and then along came Matt, and that was the four of us were the original team, sitting in scooters, sitting in Matt's kitchen, and Matt's old house, and just building something from nothing.
The founding
In my
fathers
case,
of Travify.
in my case, so Chris was pulling the best of the best people he knew, or the people he went to elementary school with and went to kindergarten with, which is me. So that's how I got my foot in the door at Travify.
Yeah. Yeah, so everything is just a layer on a layer. And so that's what we set out and built. And one of the things that's interesting, again, is about the journey. The journey takes you to the right people. The journey also takes you to the right product. But another story on people before we get into kind of the product journey. And I know Scott can talk a lot about some of the data and feedback we saw, where we realized that, we actually were sitting on a tool that was right for and helpful for travel agents, not necessarily consumer. But one of the, you meet the right people on your journey, and it's just, there is very early on, when we were getting started and trying to learn the landscape, there was another company in town in Nebraska that was doing some good marketing and student programs and things. And so it was, hey, why don't we sit down and, chat with them about some lessons? And so I sat down with this really, really friendly, wonderful person who was letting me know a little bit of what was going on, what they were doing and thing. And that was Stephanie, of course.
When I was in college.
Yeah, she was the college intern worker who was doing amazing things on the marketing side. There was definitely, at least on my side, walked away and said, this person rocks. And lo and behold, was it 3 years later? Who knows? Who knows timing?
It was
3
years.
A few years later, as we were growing our team, the timing was right, and there we go. And now Steezy is, as everyone who's listening to this knows, the ultimate client champion, the ultimate education guru, the face of Travify Academy, and just an incredible person that we knew and worked with outside of Travify in the days and years before we became teammates.
Oh, well, thanks. You can't see because I have the Zoom nice thing, but I'm blushing. The one thing that was crazy, though, is when I first started, I met Scott and David in Scooters. It's a coffee shop, local coffee shop here. And I remember what my job role was to create blog articles and social media for like bachelorette parties and for personal travel, and just how different it is now. It's so funny. It was really exciting, and I always had my eye on Travify, so it's pretty awesome.
That was a fun story. If you're just stepping back, talking about small businesses and hiring that initial team, lots of small businesses wrestle with, like, how do I find the right people? What should that interview process be like? And it's really funny. And David and I use Stephanie as an example, and I don't want to make you feel awkward talking about you nonstop in this, but where you leave doing an interview, like David and I sat down with Stephanie, and we're like, we have to hire her like right now. And like, that was a good lesson. Like, when you find the right people, don't wait. Just, lock them down as soon as you can, because when you find people with drive and initiative and passion and energy, like you want those people on your team.
Well, more than that, the right people excel in so many different ways and add value in terms of their personality, leveling up the team, as well as the road skills. And literally all three of us have, from a functional job standpoint, maybe not a titular standpoint, have all had about 6 different jobs at Travify at least. Just because at a different moment, here's the need, and the right people are there to jump in, the deep end head first and just figure it out and do. And it's all about the right people.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, I swear I didn't pay them to say this on this podcast. So
Well, and
thank you.
we have some amazing people at Travify. Like that's the other thing that
Yeah, we
I feel
do.
really proud about is that we've built a really fantastic family of people. I
Hmm.
genuinely enjoy everyone that we have on the
100%.
team. And so it's we've had that luckily we've had that experience where we find the right people. We haven't had to do the merry-go-round of like musical chairs of finding people. It's worked really well, and we've attracted great people for some reason. We've been lucky for that.
We've been very fortunate, and I think a lot of that comes down to you two and everyone else on the team, which is culture, which is just
Hmm.
it's a great place to work that is challenging every day and good that it's stimulating. It's not, but it's also we don't value vanity things like FaceTime. It's about get your work done, do it well, have fun, all of those things. One thing I do want to note before we move on, for those that are video watching this podcast, vidcasting or whatever you call it, I'm wearing the original shirt, which if I really scoot in, you can see is just like absolutely falling.
Oh, it is.
Tatters. It is disgusting, but I will never get rid of the shirt.
Breaks
So
it out
proud
on
of you.
special occasions, anniversaries,
Exactly.
weddings, etc.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Formal events. But anyway, to the story. So we set out and we built consumer tools that we put out there to solve all these things. And the one thing that I say a lot, folks, if you've read other articles or other podcasts, you've heard me say, which is the one thing that you'll always get from us is real talk. 100% real talk. And the real talk on that is two intellectually honest, super competing real narratives, which is on the one hand, that product was the product was great, but in terms of adoption, super great vanity metrics. You had million plus trips on that platform. You had a real brand that people were growing and knowing. We had real legit data because people were using this to plan trips and do and that New York Times, Wall Street Journal, what are the bachelorette trends going on right now? What is the average spend? Just like people when they want to know what's going on in the housing market, let me call Zillow. That's what was going on with us. Super legit true.
And
The other side,
and tens of thousands of active users too,
yeah.
where it wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily vanity.
Oh yeah, for sure. But the other side, it was, the concept of a business is you need to be sustainable. You have to make more money than you spend so that you can grow and continue to provide that. And like a lot of consumer businesses, it wasn't there. We were built off of if you use this as a consumer and thing, maybe you would buy certain types of travel we were serving in there and thing. And it wasn't the case. The conversion rates weren't to the point that, it was a scalable business. But being the data nuts, listening to users, and a big, shout out goes to Scott, who was a very, very early and vocal champion of some of the data that we were seeing. We realized that you all, assuming that the listener folks here are a lot of travel advisors, are just an incredible, incredible group. Prime users of Travify in the right market and audience. But Scott, if you want to walk through some of the data we were seeing and some of the things we were hearing, I mean.
Yeah, it's a really funny chapter to go back and think about that. It was my first kind of taste and dabble at sales. From that point, prior to that, I had been entirely marketing focused, primarily digital marketing and advertising communications. But what was interesting is, in those early months, we were testing lots of different things to see, is there some type of B2B model, or is there some type of market that has traction with any early stage young technology company? That's a big part of what you're doing, is just testing different things and moving on to test more things. What was interesting is David and Chris had me really I think about it like dropping someone in the wilderness and just seeing if they can survive in that. And that's kind of what we did, is we built a database of professional travel advisors and just started reaching out to them saying, hey, we have this tool, it's built around group travel, et cetera. Is this something that you would be willing to test out? We even got to the point of building in, literal free services for them just to get them using it and stuff, where some of them are like, why are you giving this to me for free? It almost caused questions because we were trying to deliver so much to them.
Just thinking of the things you do to learn a market, I just think of Derek, fantastic intern. We had calling soccer teams all over the Midwest to learn about their travel planning needs. Like just
absolutely. And all of those logistics and things that go into it. But as we did market research of talking to, and I'm not exaggerating, travel advisor after travel advisor after travel advisor. And we're in the very early stages where we didn't have everything that travel advisors needed, but we had the core of what many were looking for. And at that point, as a core team, we got together and I kind of unloaded, like, here are the things that I think we need, based off of what I'm hearing from these travel advisors that we're working with. And so that kind of started that process of figuring out, laying out that chessboard of here are the pieces that we need to put in place. But what was really, really interesting, this is something I still share, in demos and webinars and stuff, when people ask, how did Travify get it started, is during that same period, I went through the database, and I remember the day doing this, going through the database of some of our initial test users and stuff with that free consumer platform. And I literally found 1,000 different travel advisors and tour operators that were using our system. And so that's where we started doing some outreach. Come to find out, they're just using the itinerary platform because it was even in its infancy, it was so much better than a lot of the tools or the systems like copy and pasting emails and Word docs, that they wanted to use that just because it's more simple and streamlined. And so that when you talk about finding traction or finding, where you're solving a problem, that was one of those kind of I don't want to say the light bulb went off, but it was a clear signal of, okay, this is a focus point for us.
Well, and their volumes were also different. I mean, that's the thing is you hear these things, but you look at the data where, a typical user, when we were in a more consumer, and if you were to take a typical user that we were building for, which was ourselves, which at the time is a 27-year-old who's going to a few bachelor parties or class trips a year. What are they using the platform 3 times a year? You had people with hundreds of trips on their daily usage things, and you go, who are these people, and how and why are they using the system so much different, so much more heavily than others? Because for them, you're clearly adding value. And that was the real thing, is when you see that the way folks were using only a sliver of the software for what it wasn't intended for. And frankly, I don't think was built perfect for it, and that was missing so many core things, but they're making it work. You realize you're onto something, and there's so many cliched phrases, and I hate being that guy, but there's a reason you hear pivot, and there's a reason you hear right product, wrong market. We built a great product and delivered it to the absolute wrong market. And on the one hand, I want to kick myself for how did we not know? But that's life. Life is the journey. What I'm grateful for, and this is why the people are the most important thing. Grateful to be on a team that's so analytical, that you've got, Chris pulling data and things and questioning and getting under, working with people like that you've got people like Scott that is the ultimate listener, the ultimate, empathy and care, that's listening to the users, listening to those he's talking with, and goes, oh, wow, here's their problem. Here's what they're using it for. Here's the thing. And you put that together, and, we were sitting on an opportunity to help an incredible industry that by a lot of technology had been left behind. And it really was a cool way to see it all come together. And it was a wild ride, just a super duper wild ride.
And you touch on a really good point. One of our early investors and advisors, I remember, had a quote said, "We don't invest in products, we invest in teams." Yeah. And I thought that really hits the nail on the head. And it's also helpful for, companies that are starting from an early stage. So people that are listening, if you're trying to find that right team, finding people that are just passionate problem solvers that work really well together, like that rarely ever sends you down the wrong path, if you focus on the team that way.
What were some of the, because I remember so I think right when I started was in 2015, and we were just getting into Travify for travel agents, what we first called it. But I can't really remember what were some of the first things that we were doing to reach out to those people, and what were the most successful? Because I remember doing demos and, trying to get some SEO going, but what were you finding that were the most successful in trying to get to travel agents?
So early on, it was number one where it really came from. And this again sort of proves it's a little bit of chicken or the egg, but it really starts with we had so many, Scott is not exaggerating when he says over 1,000. Like we had so many agents that were already using our system for what we weren't intended. When we built out our first fully supported subscription version, which again doesn't even resemble the tool today, like kind of crazy. Yeah. But again, would enable us to keep building and things like that. And we put it out there. The initial beta folks we put it into in the test was existing Travify users. We just sent it out to the what was then the consumer base and said, here's the future. Here's what we're building towards. Are you interested? Would you sign up? And, we were selling subscriptions day one, which is crazy. From there, it went on to some of the traditional kind of reach out and look at things. I remember there were several organizations that, list some of their leaders and things, like an ASTA, or I think it was OSSN back then.
Yeah.
We reached out to some chapter directors and said, hey, here's what we're building. We're working with some folks. Would you sit down and chat with us? And like that, it kind of spiraled. But, one of the things that we at Travify have been very fortunate about, and it makes me feel very grateful for our users, grateful for the folks we work with, is we've been a very inbound business, bottoms up sales, word of mouth sales, all of those different ways of saying the same thing, where most of it has come from that, not a let me go talk to XYZ consortia agency host and negotiate and share and sell. It's all come from you, which is awesome, and it keeps us honest and making sure we're building the right stuff that people love, people share, people use. So it kind of was a powder keg that was just lit. It happened fast. It happened, at the time it didn't feel that way, but looking back, it was fast.
Oh yeah. A couple of the tactics that I don't think the team enjoyed at the time, but ended up in retrospect being really helpful for us, of like forcing yourself to go through market validation and listening to customers. We had the entire team, including our developers, do what we call list building, going out and hunting and searching for travel agencies, tour operators in every city, every state across the US, so that then served as our database to start just introducing ourselves via email. And then I had the fortunate opportunity to do cold calls. And that is new company cold call. That's a challenging venture to keep people on the phone and keep them interested, to try to learn from them. And that's literally what we were trying to do. We were not even trying to sell, we were trying to learn.
No, just how do you work? What do you need? We're not building lists to spam people. Literally just, we're here to learn. How can we think it? And that's always been our mantra. It's all about learning and listening. And that's where I like any company, anything in product is 3 steps forward, 1 step back. You make missteps. I'm not saying that our shit stinks, like anyone else's. But I think because we've started from listening thing, we've made more right decisions than not. And I think that more is the tenor of the team, which I'm so grateful to work with. And for you, our users, who've been so willing to share and let us know what works, what doesn't, what you need. And it's worked out well.
That is an important thing. We do rely a lot on feedback, and you'll hear us even, I'm sure anyone listening might have talked to me before and shared some. I'm like, I will share that with the team, the feedback. We tag things. We're always talking. Our client champion team, once a week, we go over what are we hearing. We will take that to the developers if we start hearing things a lot. So that's also, I think, a really big, important thing that I don't know if some companies focus on as heavily as we do sometimes. But now one other thing that I want to get to. So we're talking about, evolving. Now, what does the future of Travify look like? Is there anything big coming at all?
Scott, would you like the honors?
Go for it. Go for it.
Well, but before we talk about, because I gather that this podcast is going to publish the week that we've got a big announcement, which I'll get to in a second. With that listening and thing, one of the things that's been a really cool part of our evolution in supporting the incredible travel advisor industry, an industry that delivers insane value to travelers and has, I think, a super bright future, particularly in a post-COVID world. We started out as an itinerary tool. That was the piece that people were loving using. Again, we had that over 1,000 folks using it before we even looked at this market, and we kept building and doing and listening. And one of the things that we constantly heard was, "This is great. Love Travify. You're making me more efficient. You're helping my customers grow. You're helping do blah blah blah. Could you help me here? Could you help me here?" And really looking for Travify to assist in other areas of their desktop, of their process. And so over time, we've evolved in that. And again, it's one of the cool things is it's not a strategic roadmap thing, but just a listening in that we then, released a full-fledged proposal state because we saw people were using it with an approvals workflow in helping, advisors sell more. Then because of all the clients that were within the system, we then, started helping with some client management, managing key information on clients that you're building proposals and trips for, forms for collecting that information, et cetera. And then ultimately, the big thing that we're going to be talking about is, as folks are managing all their trips, their sales processes, the things through Travify, was assisting them with more of their marketing side of things. And in that listening and testing with our beta trailblazers, we're super thrilled that next week we're going to be releasing, I think, one of the most revolutionary things we ever have, which is, I'll let you guys do it.
Take it away, Scott.
Websites.
An integrated website builder where you can manage, you can build in the same way Travify, easy drag and drop website builder to build your website or landing page, domain mask it, and share it with the world. We've got a ton of different elements within there, tons of different theme options, super customizable. It's actually really cool. I know I'm supposed to say that, but it's really cool, and just super exciting. A super just really cool next part of our evolution in helping our industry, helping us grow.
Yeah, and one of the things that I like to stress to travel advisors that I'm getting to know on that first call, first 5 minutes, is around Travify's methodology, how we work. We don't want to create this myriad of different semi-detached tools that you use, and they're kind of loosely strung together, and you have to pay for all of these things separately. We've heard time and time again from travel advisors, they're tired of being spread out over 20 different systems that they get 20 different bills for every month. And so really our goal, and we talk about this on a regular basis as a team, is how do we provide more and more value and simplify that instead of creating 10 different things that are add-ons and things that you have to include and pay for additionally, how can we make it just really simple and the core things, the 5 tools that every travel advisor, every tour operator needs in their daily workflows, and have that built into Travify. And so in this example with websites, I get travel advisors that ask me this, so how much additional is that? And I said, no, that's included in your one account, one plan. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to buy anything else. There's no gotchas in there. And they kind of tilt their head. What do you mean? So it's all about value for us.
Yeah. Well, to that extent, you have to live and breathe what you preach. So not only, websites being released as a part of again, with the Travify subscription, you get itineraries, proposals, client management, forms, websites. Also, we did have certain things in the past that were power-ups, meaning there was an incremental charge to that, which were embeddable itineraries, as well as domain masking. As a part of this release, we've done some back-end development work that allowed us to make those included. There are no more power-ups. Everything is included in a Travify subscription. And so that's just, it's an exciting moment. It's an exciting moment of adding value to our industry at a time where, one, I fully believe that the travel industry in general, particularly travel advisory industry, is ready to explode in a post-COVID era. So number one, we're happy to provide that value and super excited to, in anticipation of that, but also at a point because we know the A to B, now until that point, is a very challenging point. There is no one in the travel industry who isn't hit hard and immune to that. So we're thrilled to be able to do that now at a time where things are more difficult and assist with costs, but also to help you capture that huge mega tsunami sized wave that's coming. And we know it's coming. So it's just about making sure we all get from A to B.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Excited to see everything release and hear that feedback. Again, bring it to us. It's how we get better and keep growing and become that all-in-one tool for travel advisors. Started from selling to personal travelers, not really selling to them, just allowing them to use this product to build things, and then now into this. So pretty cool. Pretty awesome. So is there anything else that I'm missing at all? Any crazy? I know we could sit here forever and talk about stories.
There are tons of crazy things that have happened and things,
yes.
But
lots of funny stories from the early days.
Yeah, I think that covers the main stuff.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a part 2. If you really enjoy this, we can talk about many of the fun stories. I wish I'm in our office and I have a giant novelty check that we make fun of. I should have grabbed it and had it ready to go, but next time.
All the pitch competitions from the early days.
Oh yeah.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so you guys have seen this before, but now again, tables have turned. Let's do some rapid fire questions. Okay, so I'm going to do this for both of you. So you can just spit out whoever goes first. Okay, so here we go. First question. What is your favorite road trip song?
Country Roads, John Denver.
Oh, nice. I would say anything John Mayer or a late John Mayer, not early John Mayer, or Ben Rector. Good ones.
Nice, very good. Okay, so what is your favorite travel movie?
Ocean's 12.
Ocean's 12. That's good. Pass. I got to think this one through.
No worries. Come back to you. So the next question, what is your favorite destination you've traveled to?
I can guess David's. Thailand, yep.
Oh.
It was Thailand or China?
I didn't know you had been to China.
Yeah. China, 2008.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
For me, Interlaken, Switzerland.
Nice. Very nice. Okay, so a little bit different. What do you think is the most underrated destination to visit?
This is helpful for everyone that's doing a lot of domestic travel these days. New Jersey. It is truly the Garden State. It is truly the Garden State. Gets such a bad rap. Send people to Cape May. Send people to all over New Jersey. Washington Crossing Park. It's fantastic.
Visit David once COVID.
Visit me.
Yep.
Yeah,
Visit
once
David.
we're safe.
Visitdavid.com. So this is very ambiguous, but I've just been reminded of it over the last several months. Is any US domestic trip, we have lots of users as well in Canada, that your domestic destinations are such a wealth of great experiences. And we've seen some of the travel advisors we work with start to put together really great, fantastic packages of domestic travel right now where it's hard to do things internationally. And so that's just been highlighted to me. I'm a sucker for wine trips. So domestic wine trips are definitely something I'm all about.
So Napa Valley, or would you say?
Napa, Sonoma. I was inspired by you, Steezy, and
Yes.
Travel Oregon's one of our clients, Willamette Valley, and they've got some of the leading Pinot Noirs that I'd love to go there someday.
Only the best. I know it's on my bucket list now too. I've been accruing quite the bucket list since we've been locked down. So it's ready. Okay, so kind of almost keep on that wine vibe here. What is the best meal you've ever had while traveling?
I'm gonna go back to the same favorite destination. Street meat in Thailand is I ate so much, like it was so good, and just love it. There was not a cart I couldn't buy something from and just down.
So so that's really good. And one of mine, I have a tie, and one of mine's very similar to David. So first, beer gardens in Munich, Munich, Germany. Like getting a literal stein of Hefeweizen or Helles and a literal giant pretzel at Hofbrauhaus. That's just fun, period. But the other one, and David will love this, a few years ago, I took my family to New York because my wife had a conference there that she was going to. And I was the same way for New York street food, that we would be walking down the street in New York or anywhere we would go, and I would just be buying a hot dog, buying pizza, buying anything off the carts that I could, and I literally could not get enough. And I was so jealous. In New York, really good pizza places, there's one on every block, and they're all like phenomenal. Like compared to Nebraska, like we have a handful of really good ones. There, it's just everywhere.
Oh man, this make me hungry. What is the last great book or article that you read?
Well, I feel like so many of us are reading the same book. So we have a book club at Travify. And this month we're doing part 2 of Roots. So I read it about a decade ago, but I'm wrapping up everything for tomorrow's book club.
Mine, I am a father of 3 girls. David's a father of 2 girls, but I'm a father of 3 girls. I read a book, Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, just about father-daughter relationships and those things. And it's a really good one.
Love that. Girl dads. So awesome.
Oh yeah.
Well, I guess if we're going with that, if we're going by most recent, I read Bear in a Square this morning. So.
Very nice. I'll have to look that one up.
I read Finding Nemo over lunch to my 2.5-year-old.
Nice.
So there you go.
Bear in a Square. Love it. So one more question, then I'm going to come back to you, David, on that movie. So, this one's always my favorite. What is the craziest thing that's ever happened to you while traveling?
Craziest thing. Oof.
So in a former life, I was a professional musician. We had a tour bus. We toured all across the US and Canada and stuff. And we had many, many, many crazy things happen while driving that tour bus. One of the most interesting and nerve-wracking was when we had just bought a brand new tour bus. We'd never taken it out on a tour before, driving through Alabama, or literally driving through cross country with it, our first trip out of the gates with it. The entire drivetrain just falls out of the tour bus. And no one tows tour buses at night. So we just had to sleep like literally on the side of the highway with anyone and everyone stopping by to like knock on the side of the bus to see if they could help us. So that one was fun. And then seeing your tour bus you just bought towed.
The Southern hospitality was just kept trying to help.
So many stories. I think this one, just because it's interesting, because it's something that my wife Amanda kind of mocks me, gives me a little grief for to this day. So when I was a senior in college and was going into my first job, very often they have like cell days where you go to a hotel, you visit the office and thing to try to go there. And so I went into New York City and was staying at the Gansevoort Hotel, great hotel in Meatpacking, for a cell weekend for a job. And you get there, I have a bag full of like suits and things because it's business things, and the suitcase after checking in there is gone, just absolutely gone. Did they give it to the wrong person? Did they put it in the wrong room? Did they, who knows what? And by the way, for lots of folks here that are, of course, in the hospitality industry, phenomenal service. Like, I get it. Shit happens. Like that's a thing. It's how you act in that moment that shows who you are. And they were nothing but professional. So this is the thing I get mocked for. For anyone who's watching the video thing, I have no style. whatsoever. I am a t-shirt and mesh shorts kind of guy and thing. So I guess their outfits that they wear, the people there, the uniform, are these like $1,000 Hugo Boss suits, like super expensive thing. It's a very cheesy hotel. So I had to go to a meeting, for thing. They lost my luggage. So they look at me and they go, we'd love to give you one of these suits. You can have a thing. Or across the street is Urban Outfitters. If you want, we could just give you some money and you can go buy like, some jeans and a t-shirt and thing. And so I was like, yeah, that. And so I go ahead and I buy like a pair of jeans and a t-shirt and, whatever, it's a story. They lost my luggage. I now have clothes, and I go to the meetings and things. And of course, like, a day later, they find it, they had put it in the wrong room. And again, stuff happens. They acted wonderfully, things that, but to this day, I get mocked that, you had this thing, your luggage is lost. You could have had this like absurd stuff and thing. And you're like, I'm going to go get like a polo and jeans. And
that's what I was just thinking.
So, yeah.
Like, wait, where was the catch? Because you could have had, the really nice.
Well, that reminds me, Steezy, of you flying to Virtuoso Travel Week and they lost your luggage.
Yes. And Virtuoso Travel Week's like the fancy, like you should be, like usually, our Travify polo, our nice pants, like I'll wear those on the plane so I'm ready to go when I get off. But this time I had like different dresses and stuff. And luckily it was Vegas. And so things are open at midnight. So I went and found a dress. Yep. Yeah, that was traumatizing. I know it happens to people all the time, but it's traumatizing. So David, coming back to you on this one final question here. What's your movie?
So I'm going to go with, because I feel like travel movie can go in any different directions. I'm going to go with one of my favorite movies, which is When Harry Met Sally, because it starts with a road trip.
Oh yeah.
So it counts.
True. It does. I love that. Well, thank you so much, guys. This has been a really fun time. And
it was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for having us on.
You too. I've heard so much about you both. And so it's good to meet you.
Have us back again sometime. We'd love to.
Yeah, definitely. Let us know, definitely review us and let us know. Maybe we'll have these guys back. But I just want to say thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of The Lounge with Travify Academy. And thank you to our special guests, David and Scott, for joining us here today. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the latest episodes. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation today and join us again. But for now, stay safe and we'll catch you on the next flight.